It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Lately, I've been doing a lot of resilience workshops. Lots of parents worried about their kids' resilience. There's one topic that I bring up in that resilience workshop that gets parents one of two things, either very, very excited or very, very upset, nervous, worried, and anxious. The topic is risky play. Risky play. And Kylie, you can understand both, right? As soon as I start saying it's good for your children to do things that are risky, you can see why they might hesitate. They might pause and say,
yeah, but are you talking about leaving your kids with some matches and paper?
Sometimes,
or are you
yeah, absolutely. That's what camping is for.
Climbing the climbing frame on their own.
A bit boring. I'd like more risk than that. Let's speak about climbing frames for a sec. When you were a youngster, back in the olden days, before computers, BC, what was your favourite piece of playground equipment?
It was this massive pine tree in the back of my school playground.
Sorry, just pause right there. Note I said playground equipment and you have gone straight out of the playground to the tree. Mm-hmm. I love that. This was not pre-scripted. You didn't know the question was coming. Nope. Tell me more about the pine tree. Why'd you like it so much?
It would have been maybe 7 stories high. Like, it was massive. And it had these beautiful big boughs just stretching out, which felt like for miles as a little kid. And me and my friends would climb up and we would climb.
Whoa. Hang on. You're at school and you're climbing trees?
Yeah.
That was allowed?
That was allowed.
Wow.
And we would each claim a bough.
Right.
And that was our bedroom. And we used to take some pine leaves or pine needles and sweep the floor because there was no grass underneath. It was all dirt. And then we'd use the pine cones and we'd make, different things to eat. It was just so much fun. Like, that is honestly, hands down, my favourite childhood memory. Justin?
Yes?
What was your favourite playground equipment when you were a kid?
Hey, thanks so much for asking. My favourite, I had a couple. Do you remember those? I think that you would call it a merry-go-round.
A chuck-up spinning thing.
Well, it wasn't so much a chuck-up thing. I'm going to get to that in a sec. It was the thing where you'd get, 5 or 10 kids sitting on it, and then one person would hold the handrail and just run as fast as you could and spin as fast as you could. And it was just delightful to stand on that thing and push it around in a circle as fast as you could. I don't know if anyone got sick on it, but super fast.
All the time.
So we also had this thing at a park near my house. It was kind of like a little sphere and you could climb into it, and there was a handle in the middle that you could spin the handle. That was the Vomitron.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Spin around and also at the park near where I grew up, in Niagara Park, just off Gilder Drive, there was a park there, and it had what felt at the time to be the biggest slide in the world. Just down the road from my grandma and grandpa in Cardigan Street in Auburn, there was a park as well, just next to Duck Creek, and they had a slide. So the big slide near where I grew up, it followed the land as the land slid down. It just went down the land. So you could always just get out of the slide and put your feet on the ground. Whereas the one in Anna Pops, it had the tallest ladder of any slide I've ever seen in any playground in history. It was huge. They were my favorites. Oh, and big swings. Not the little playground swings like we have now. Back in my day, I can't believe I just said that. We used to have swings, and they were so big that you couldn't reach the person as they swung back to you because they were swinging so high. We don't do any of that sort of stuff anymore. And the reason that we don't have that sort of playground equipment anymore is because people are worried that the risks, well, I think councils are worried that somebody's going to get sued because an arm will be broken or a leg will be broken or somebody's going to get knocked unconscious because a piece of steel hits them as this merry-go-round spins around really fast. But here's the thing. It didn't really happen that much. Kids figured it out.
I remember a couple of kids breaking their arms on the monkey bars when I was growing up. But when you look at the number of children that went through the school.
Oh, the hours of play on those monkey bars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was such a minute minority. It wasn't just a minority. It was tiny.
Okay, unplanned question. How serious is it when your child breaks an arm? Like, is it that big of a deal?
It's not.
No, it's a story for the rest of your life. Like, we really do worry about this stuff, and I'm not sure that we're worried about the right kind of thing. I want to talk about this idea of risky play. Play that is risky is play that involves heights, that involves speed, that involves the potential for impact, play that involves independence, and just for fun, I'm going to throw in play that involves tools. And the central point that I want to make here is that when we grew up, it wasn't called risky play.
It was just play.
That's exactly what it was.
Just play.
We've sanitized play. We've sanitized the life, the learning, and the opportunity out of play.
When I went to preschool, so I was 4 years old, and I still have vivid memories of the workbench. It was supplied with all the clamps that we needed, the nails, the hammers, and it was all there so I could hammer all the different recyclable items onto a piece of wood and then take it home and show my mum and dad proudly what I had made.
Parents are struggling so much with the idea of risky play that the Canadian Paediatric Society has put a list together of how we can teach parents to do risky play at home.
Wow.
And I know there's a wow factor there, but I also, based on the conversations that I'm having in various halls and teaching rooms and conferences around the country, I want to go through this list with you. We have limited time for it, so I am going to go quickly, but feel free to interject wherever you want. They've highlighted how you can do risky play at home.
But here's the struggle, though. There's no risky play anywhere allowed.
That's why home is where it's got to happen.
So parents follow suit, right?
Of course. But with the very best of intentions, we just don't want our kids to get hurt. It's horrible when your kids get hurt. It really is. We had a daughter who fell off. It wasn't even a monkey bar, but it was that kind of thing, and she broke her arm. We didn't realise for a few hours.
It wasn't a few hours.
Okay, maybe half an hour
10
or so.
10 minutes.
Oh, right. And guess what? She's got a great story about how she fell off while we were down at the velodrome.
By the time I saw her 10 minutes later, because I'd sent her to the car,
yes.
Her arm was completely bowed.
Right. It was broken. It was ugly. Here's how you encourage risky play at home, ideally so that the kids don't break a leg or break an arm, but so that they might. And that's where the fun is. Playing at height. The Canadian Paediatric Society says that means that you give your children opportunities to climb and jump and balance at height. And note, there's no suggestion that there needs to be soft fall or a rubber mat underneath them.
It's interesting. Again, I just had another visual. One of the play equipment options at my school when I was in grade 1 and 2 was this balancing beam, but it wasn't a balancing beam close to the ground. Like, it was a full, probably 1.5 meters off the ground. Like, when I fell, I didn't reach the height of the balancing beam.
I was doing that when I was a kid once. My dad said, look, Justin, have fun, but if you fall and break both your legs, don't come running to me. Playing at speed. That involves maybe riding a bike at high speed or sliding or running. We used to do cardboard box sliding down steep hills with the kids. We'd get like a refrigerator box, sit on the box and just slide down this grassy hill when we were living in Wollongong. There was a great spot for it. And we've also, as the kids got older, gone ice blocking. So much fun. Sit on a block of ice that you can buy from wherever you buy wholesale ice. Sit on the block of ice and slide down a grassy hill. Play involving tools. Supervised activities involving an axe, saw, knife, hammer, or ropes. I mean, camping. That's why kids love camping. Here's the next one that they suggest. Play involving potentially dangerous elements. In other words, playing near fire or water. I remember being on a hike with the kids once and we found a waterfall and just watching the kids scramble over these jagged rocks near the base of the waterfall and thinking, this is so good. They're climbing over these jagged rocks and this could go really badly. But here's the critical thing. They take the risks that are appropriate for them and they learn how to navigate and judge the risks. Rough and tumble play. So there's wrestling, play fighting, fencing with sticks. Play with risk for disappearing or getting lost. The Canadian Paediatric Society say that exploring play spaces, neighbourhoods or woods without adult supervision, or in the case of young children with limited supervision, like hiding behind the bushes, is good for them. There are two others, play involving impacts, so you could crash into something or someone, maybe repeatedly, and of course only for fun. And lastly, vicarious play. Vicarious play is experiencing the thrill of watching other, often older children engaging in risky play. I love the list.
Another visual. I went to my cousin's house one day. I probably was about 8 and she had a brand new set of roller skates. The problem was she lived at the top of this really steep driveway, so there was nowhere to roller skate.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I had never used a pair of roller skates, and I spent probably 3 or 4 hours trying to master roller skating down the driveway.
That's fantastic.
I think my bum must have been so black and blue by the end of that day.
I need to make a quick note. We do need to make sure when we consider that list that what we're encouraging our children to do is developmentally appropriate. So there's a great line that I picked up from Jonathan Haidt's After Babel Substack. He said, you want your kids to be as safe as necessary, not as safe as possible. So we do need to still recognize that there are risks. That's why it's called risky play, and it needs to be developmentally appropriate. A 4-year-old can't do what a 14-year-old can, and we shouldn't encourage that.
I loved what you said before about the fact that as we allow our children the opportunity to spread their wings a little bit and engage in risky play, they will take the risks that are appropriate for them.
Yes.
And as adults, it's really important that we don't squash that inner voice and push them to do things beyond their capacity within reason.
One other thing that I need to emphasize, and that's this pushing point. We've got to allow our children the option of saying no. So this is not about us making them do risky play. This is about creating an environment where they have the capacity to take risk. It's about agency or autonomy. We need to be careful with pressure. We didn't have adults pushing us to be risky when we were kids. We just went and played. Case in point, and I think I've shared this story before. Last Christmas, we spent some time with my parents on the New South Wales Central Coast. My parents have a boat and they have a donut that you can tie to, not for eating, a donut that you can lay on and lay behind the boat and zoom around. And our youngest, Emily, who at the time was 9, was terrified. This was risky for her. She was going to put a life jacket on, hold on to the donut, and then get whipped around the water.
And then fall into
the water.
Jellyfish-infested waters.
There were millions of big jellyfish in the water. And so we put her on the donut and said, promise we're not going to knock you off. We just want you to get used to it. She was happy to do that if she had a sister on either side of her and the donut was big enough for the 3 of them to lay there. And after about 30 seconds, she was like, I like it. And then she started to give us directions. Faster, faster. She wanted the speed. She wanted the impact. She wanted the thrill. She wanted the risk. She just needed to acclimatize to it. Now, she did not fall off. We made sure that while we gave her a lot of fun, we kept it just to a level where she could barely hang on, but she hung on. The critical thing here is that we are now going to go back there next year because she's dying every time she gets the chance. Poppy, when can we go on the boat again? She's dying to get on there. She still doesn't want to fall off. But as she gets bigger, as she has more experience with it, she will continue to push those boundaries until she's delighted to fall off. And hopefully there won't be any jellyfish in the water.
So you've got 5 tips for parents who are struggling to engage in risky play.
Let me dive into these 5 things. Right before I do, research evidence shows, some people are listening to this saying, yeah, but I've got an anxious child. I can't do this for them. Risky play, according to recent research, helps children overcome anxiety disorders and the cognitive distortions that go along with them.
Anyone who's done something hard knows the thrill that comes from having achieved it. Like you get to the other side and you're pumped.
Yep. And anxious children, they don't get pumped until they've overcome it. So they see something that has some uncertainty. They don't know how to tolerate it. They do tend to interpret ambiguous situations quite negatively, and they underestimate their ability to cope if the situation has some level of uncertainty around it. In risky play, kids practice dealing with strong, ambiguous emotions because thrill and excitement are also interpreted as fear and terror. They learn how to cope with that. They learn how to deal with situations that are bound with uncertainty. And it shows them that they're resilient and capable of coping when things go wrong. The research shows that children with more opportunities for risky play have lower internalizing symptoms that you would consider characteristic of anxiety disorders. Just had to say that. So let's dive into what we can do to encourage our kids to be playing in ways that are good for them, that are risky. See above. Number 1, say yes. Like, don't be the parent that says, oh, no, you can't do that. Just say yes. Number 2, be outdoors, because outdoors lends itself to risky play much more than being indoors on carpet staring at a TV. Number 3, encourage sports and rough and tumble play and time near water. Obviously, safety does need to be a factor, but look for opportunities to be outside and move your body. And number 4, get rid of screens. Number 5, get out of the way. Just get out of the way. Stop controlling. I don't want to minimize the significance of breaking an arm, but breaking arms are okay. It's of course it's painful. Of course there's stress associated with it, but breaking an arm is okay. The kids can take risks. There's nothing more exciting than climbing up on the roof and jumping into the pool.
A handful of years ago, our eldest convinced me to jump out of a plane with her.
Yes.
I may have been saying what I thought might be my last prayer that morning before I left to get in that bus. And at the end of it, she asked me if I was glad I did it. And the reality is I wasn't.
Right.
I actually wasn't.
I wasn't expecting you to say that.
I didn't love the way my body felt in that space. Does that mean that I'm completely risk averse? No, there's plenty of things that I'm happy to do that still leave me feeling really, really anxious in the moment. But I've worked out what my tolerance level is in relation to what I'm willing to put myself through. I'm still willing to do hard things, but there are some things that I just know is not worth the payout.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's a really, really good point.
And so, I just think we help our kids to recognize there are some things that are worth pushing through, and there are other things that if this is too much for you, that's okay.
Yep, agency matters. Let's wrap up with a quote from Roald Dahl, who said, "The more risks you allow children to take, the better they learn to take care of themselves. If you never let them take any risks, then I believe they become very prone to injury. Boys should be allowed to climb tall trees and walk along the top of high walls and dive into the sea from high rocks. The same with girls. I like the type of child who takes risks, better by far than the one who never does." The research is pretty clear. When you let your kids take risks, they become more physically developed, they are more emotionally resilient, they develop more social skills, they're better at risk assessment, they're more creative in terms of the way they solve problems, their mental health improves, and they have a sense of agency, autonomy over their lives. It's just so valuable. We really hope that you've enjoyed the conversation today. I know we've gone over time. It's such a great topic though, isn't it? The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Ruan from Bridge Media. If you'd like more information about making your family happier, we'd love for you to join us at happyfamilies.com.au. Check out our brand new product. It's called Felt. It's part of the Happy Families membership. Felt stands for Fostering Emotional Learning Together. It's all available at happyfamilies.com.au.